Just keep swimming.
I read the Dories of Perception when I was really, really stoned. So.
Welcome to the edge of nowhere. Monster Lore Tour Podcast. All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Side Trail 42 of the Monster Lore Tour Paranormal Deep Dives from the Edge of Nowhere podcast. I am your host, Jeremy Carr, here with my co-host, the wonderful Wizard of MOZ. What's going on behind that curtain I call your eyes, MOZ?
I will never tell.
Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain.
That is
And
really
away we
goes
go.
without saying.
Yeah. Is it weird that I think of you like that?
Well, there is a wizard component to me, and there's a Savanti, the Rain Man part as well. So there's a little bit of both.
You're the kind of wizard that spends most of his time, like you're the wizard that runs the wizard library.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Unseen University, yeah. I would definitely... I didn't hang out enough in libraries when I was younger, and I'm kind of kicking myself.
Yeah.
I'm making up for it now.
More of a Tom Bombadil myself kind of wizard.
Yeah, you're out in the woods.
Running around barefoot in the woods.
Yeah, you're out in the woods. I'm at the library.
Yeah. I talk to ravens. Did I tell you that?
Yeah.
I'm making friends with them with dimes.
Mm-hmm.
We'll talk about that off mic. That has nothing to do with our side trail today.
Dang.
This is the follow-up for the Animal Rain episode, but I did make it self-contained, as I said in the episode, and I have some noteworthy follow-ups to do with some recent headlines I found. This is a couple of stories following the development of a working warp drive, an arc that I kind of started on in episode 6, where we first talked about the U.S. Navy PAX 205 project, which appears to be the U.S. Navy funding the R&D on what could potentially be a warp drive sort of propulsion system. So we're going to be doing a further follow-up on that with some articles on a competing project, actually. Someone else who's trying to build a warp drive. We do like to follow up on any ongoing topics that we cover here at MLT, so if you want to follow along with this, jump back to episode 6 and follow my UAP, Alien Probe, Hollow Moon arc. There's a few side trails you'll have to catch up on as well. I believe 11, 7, 11.
Circle K.
I can't even keep track of it all now. There's a lot of this going on. It's a very current thing, so there's a lot of updates. But anywho, you ready for this, Moss?
I am.
So first, let's look at the device which has been given the mainstream moniker of the Impossible Drive. This is actually the top competitor to the PAX 205 inertial mass reduction device, which has come to be known as the Quantum Drive. That's the one we've previously discussed. So to remind everyone, the Quantum Drive is the device that the Navy's doing the R&D on that we were talking about. It can apparently alter the local vacuum energy density by reducing the inertial mass of an object, allowing it to move at, dare I say, ludicrous speeds. Thank you very much.
Well, when you look at me, I know it's either Python or Mel Brooks, so I have to
that was
think quickly.
Spaceballs.
Yeah.
Yes. It appears that the Impossible Drive, competitor to the Quantum Drive, has taken a giant step forward in their development of a usable next-gen propulsionless drive. It doesn't use fuel.
Oh, wow. I thought it meant like it dissolves into the quantum foam and pops up somewhere
Instead of fuel, you know what it uses?
No idea.
Fields. Does that sound familiar? Episode 6,
UAP.
Episode 7, Dream of Fields episode, yes. That's where this all started. But these guys with the impossible drive, they seem to be doing a soft disclosure kind of thing. Or, I mean, maybe it's the government after all. But they're putting out a little story here, a little story there, just to kind of get it in the public eye. Maybe, get us thinking about it so that they don't just bring it on us all at once once they get it up and running. But since this is an ongoing topic here at Monster Lore Tour, I will be bringing you these updates as they progress because they all show up in my newsfeed now. I love my newsfeed.
Well, it's discouraging to find out they're going to just use this to get your Amazon packages there sooner.
Unfortunately, that is totally going to be an application of it now. You can have it.
It's going to be an app.
You can have it 5 seconds ago if you order it right now.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh, yikes.
That's awful.
Like a package lands as you hit the button.
It's like, dang, I didn't even know. Did I order that? I guess I ordered that. You paid for it. Shit.
And they're actually going to have to
dang you, future me.
They're going to have to purposefully slow it down so that it doesn't show up before you order it because that's just going to fry people's brains.
Yeah. You're going to be mad at yourself for ordering that.
Yeah. Because then you're going to be like, I don't want that.
Yeah. Oh, wait, now I do. Now that it's here, I get future me.
That's a time travel paradox is what that is. You get a package you never ordered.
Yeah.
And thanks to Amazon, space-time implodes in on itself because our reality can no longer exist due to the time travel paradox.
Dang. That's really cool.
All right, thanks for coming, everybody. We'll see you next week. I don't know if I can carry on after that.
Yeah.
Anywho, let's get back into the faster-than-light mindset here. I'm going to read you this article from studyfinds.org from May 8th, 2024. So this is very recent. This is 5 days ago as of recording.
I mean 5 days from now.
Well, yeah, and it's not going to be heard for another who knows how long. And
yeah, it was ahead of it really was ahead of before we recorded.
Right.
Yeah.
This hasn't happened yet.
Yes.
I'm going to read you the article about it.
Yeah.
But no, this story literally just came out 5 days before recording. So this is as fresh as we can get. Headline is Warp Speed Possible. Scientists discover loophole making faster than light travel achievable. I've never loved a headline so much in my life.
Yeah, Einstein is rolling really fast somewhere in his grave.
They're finding a shortcut. It's wild. Listen to this. A new study published in Classical and Quantum Gravity suggests that a real-life warp drive might not be as far-fetched as we thought. The key, scientists say, is to look at the problem through the lens of Einstein's theory of gravity, general relativity. In general relativity, gravity isn't a force like we normally think of it. Instead, massive objects like stars and planets create curves and dips in the fabric of space-time itself. Smaller objects like spaceships simply follow these curves. It's a bit like how a heavy ball creates a dent on a rubber sheet, causing marbles to roll toward it. You know, those things you put the penny in and it goes around and around and around and around like it's fallen into a black hole almost. That's gravity.
Yes.
Well, exactly what we're talking about. The tradition, continuing with the article.
So motion isn't what we thought either, is really what it amounts to.
Correct. Gravity is a totally different thing than how we really kind of perceive it.
Yeah.
Okay, continuing. The traditional sci-fi concept of a warp drive involves distorting space-time in a very specific way, compressing it in front of the ship and expanding it behind. In theory, this would allow the ship to effectively travel faster than light without actually exceeding the speed limit locally.
The quantum Doppler effect.
You can go faster than light without actually going faster than light.
Right.
It breaks space-time. It's almost like a cheat code for bypassing the laws of physics. You're not breaking them. Mm-hmm. You're just bypassing it.
It's like a hall
pass. It's a cheat code.
Yeah. Didn't work for Logan. But
up, down, left, right, BA, select, start.
Ooh, yeah, there you go.
But for the universe. All
Control, Alt, Delete.
Continuing again. However, previous studies of this idea suggested that it would require exotic forms of matter with negative energy density. In our everyday experience, energy is always positive, even in a vacuum. There's a small positive energy called the vacuum energy. Negative energy density in physics terms means having
Dark matter.
It's less energy than a pure vacuum. So it is equivalent to the concept of dark matter, yes. This is problematic because the known laws of physics suggest that such negative energy cannot exist in large enough quantities to make a warp drive possible. Right. You can't put that much of it in one place to actually make this work. But this is where the new study comes in. The researchers hailing from various institutions, including the University of Alabama and the Applied Physics Laboratory, decided to approach the problem from a different angle. Instead of starting with a preconceived notion of what a warp drive should look like, they asked, what kind of space-time geometry could transport a ship faster than light while obeying the known laws of physics?
Is this where we get back to tesseracts?
That's a great question. I don't actually get into the tesseracts with this specifically here, but it could.
When I panic, I just say tesseract.
That's a good panic word. That's Moz's safe word is tesseract. Tesseract. Anywho, continuing. The answer they found involves a concept called a shell of regular matter. Imagine a bubble surrounding the spaceship, but instead of being made of soap, it's made of massive particles or dark matter. There you go, Moz. The sphere around the cube, remember that?
Yeah.
Richard Graves and all that?
Still sounds like a tesseract to me.
This is the bubble. It was a bubble of dark matter.
Yeah.
By carefully controlling the density and pressure of its shell, it's possible to create a warp bubble that compresses space-time in front of the ship and expands it behind, just like the warp drive on shows like Star Trek. The key difference from science fiction shows is that this shell has positive energy density everywhere. No exotic negative energy is required. The researchers showed mathematically that this physical warp drive obeys all the known energy conditions of general relativity.
It's almost like a shield, like not a shield. It's more like a cloaking device from the physical world.
Yeah, it's a bubble outside of space-time.
Yeah.
Of course, creating such a shell is far beyond our current technological capabilities. The amount of mass required is immense, with the orders of magnitude needed to pull off warp travel more than the mass of the sun. Yeah. Moreover, the study only looked at the case of a warp drive moving at a constant velocity slower than light, which travels at 186,000 miles per second. Accelerating to faster than light speeds would involve additional challenges that have yet to be worked out. Nevertheless, this work represents a significant step forward in warp drive theory. It shows that faster than light travel might be possible without violating the known laws of physics. That's really the point. It also highlights the power of thinking creatively within the framework of general relativity. Quote, although this design requires significant energy, it proves that warp effects can be achieved with conventional matter while adhering to known energy constraints. Researcher Jared Fuchs and the team at Applied Physics write in a statement. Applied Physics is continuing to make progress as humanity embarks on the warp age.
Wow.
It's the most Star Trek quote I've ever heard in real life. So there is the concept at work. The theories are building. They have designed computer modeling programs to prove the theory works, actually. So at least on paper, so to speak, or on the screen, I guess. Now we have to ask, so where are they at with the application side, right?
You can't, you're moving such massive amounts of dark matter, it's not going to be a thing.
Well, as far as they can tell in this so far, but the concept is there.
Right. No, I get it.
Once you have the concept, you start finding the other cheat codes, and maybe you don't need so much of that energy and stuff. You know what I mean? But again, we got to look at the application side, because theory is all well and good, but what kind of meat we putting in the sandwich,
Right.
So let's see where the D part of the R&D on this impossible drive, which is related to the quantum drive, aka the inertial mass reduction device.
And related to impossible meatballs, my Wolfman Puck.
Yeah, we'll see where this is at with this article from the debrief. This is from April 19th, 2024. I was going to make Moz read this one, but he's a total slacker and refused to even open the email. So I'm just going to read it for you. Thanks, Moz. Headline, NASA veterans propellantless propulsion drive. Oh, I guess it's propellantless, not propulsionless. I should have said propellantless earlier.
You did. The first time you didn't.
Yeah, that's where I went wrong.
Because propulsionless sounds like it's not going anywhere.
Right, it's actually propellantless.
Yeah.
That's my bad. Anywho, headline, NASA veterans propellantless propulsion drive that physics says shouldn't work just produced enough thrust to overcome Earth's gravity. I love these headlines in this. Dr. Charles Buehler, a NASA engineer and the co-founder of Exodus Propulsion Technologies, has revealed that his company's propellantless propulsion drive, which appears to defy the known laws of physics, has produced enough thrust to counteract Earth's gravity. It's very exciting.
Yeah.
A veteran of such storied programs as NASA's Space Shuttle, the International Space Station, the Hubble Telescope, and the current NASA DUST program, Buehler and his colleagues believe their discovery of a fundamental new force represents a historic breakthrough that will impact space travel for the next millennium. Quote, "The most important message to convey to the public is that a major discovery occurred," Buehler told the debrief. "This discovery of a new force is fundamental in that electric fields alone can generate a sustainable force onto an object and allow center of mass translation of said object without expelling mass." We'll unpack that.
Yeah,
I'll pause. Inertial mass reduction.
Mm-hmm.
Changing the center of gravity of the object without changing the shape of the object. That's inertial mass reduction. You actually put the center of gravity at the front without changing the shape of the object. This is where you're breaking space-time.
Right. This is where you're making that divot.
The words
that you fall into, sort of.
The words sound simple, but it's not at all.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But that's what they're saying, the center of mass translation without expelling mass. They can change the center of mass of the object without changing the mass of the object.
Which uses gravity to pull it in a direction.
Which is the shrinking space in the back shrinking it in the front and expanding it in the back.
Yeah.
And then you can slide through space-time like without the friction.
Yeah.
That's the 0 point.
Like a pneumatic tube in the old banks.
Yeah, there you go. Almost like a wormhole concept, but you don't need the actual wormhole. You just go in whatever direction you want to go.
Right.
Okay, back to the article. Continuing the quote from Buehler. "There are rules that include conservation of energy, but if done correctly, one can generate forces unlike anything humankind has done before," Buehler added. "It will be this force that we will use to propel objects for the next 1,000 years until the next thing comes." Unquote. Somewhat surprisingly, Buehler says that when he and his colleagues first began looking into propellantless propulsion, ideas over 2 decades ago, they did not expect electrostatics to be the answer. Instead, he and his team explored other avenues for as many as 25 years before landing on electrostatics as the key to unlocking the door of this new force. Quote, "Nature has its own way of doing things," Buehler explained, "and it is our job to uncover what nature does. It just happened to fall in my lap in what I'm the expert in."
So you have to get a spaceship that wears a really big, thick wool sweater, and then you have to rub it against something else, and then, right?
You know what? The concept at work here is those ionizing fans. You know those fans that have no moving parts, but they make the air move?
Mm-hmm.
That's exactly what we're talking about. Just scaled up to a Star Trek level.
Right.
Scaled up to a starship propulsion level.
Wow.
But that's literally the concept at work.
Dang.
Is those fans with no moving parts that like you can buy on Amazon for $20 or whatever now.
And you can get it 5 days before you ordered it.
Yeah, and you can get it 5 minutes ago if you order it right now.
All sales are final. I didn't order that. No, you did. And
yeah, you already did.
It's
like Minority Report, but with Amazon packages.
Yeah, sounds great.
All right, a little more of this article here. In the years and months leading up to the breakthrough thrust measurement, Bueller and his team took great care to methodically eliminate anything else that could account for the tiny yet measurable force they were seeing. This detailed and painstaking work resulted in the team's overriding patent, which was granted in 2020. With fresh momentum, Bueller says they also began construction of a custom-made vacuum chamber that would allow them to simulate the environment of deep space. If something else was causing the force, this chamber was built to identify it. According to the APEC presentation, that chamber was completed at the end of 2020. Between January and September 2021, 146 separate articles were tested, each seemingly confirming the presence of measurable thrust. The team also tested different configurations that eliminated the old designs using asymmetrical capacitors and instead employed models with opposing asymmetrical plates. Quote, our materials are composed of many types of charge carrier coatings that have to be supported on a dielectric film, Bueller told the debrief.
Because it's going back and forth.
Correct.
It's kind of a flux capacitor, right?
Correct. Our aim is to make it as lightweight as possible, but that is sometimes difficult since the films in their coatings have to have a high dielectric breakdown strength. Then in 2022, something astounding happened. According to Bueller, his team began to see significant jumps in the force being generated. A quick look at a chart he presented to APEC shows that tests performed between early 2022 and November 2023 resulted in a rapid climb, moving from 1,000th, 100th, and even 1/10th of gravity, all the way up to 1 full Earth gravity. This means that their current devices, which Bueller told the debrief, quote, weigh somewhere between 30 to 40 grams on their own, unquote, without the attached test equipment,
leave the atmosphere.
We're producing enough thrust to counteract the full force of 1 Earth gravity. This plays into a lot to the Breakthrough Starshot stuff. I'm going to be doing an update on that in the next side trail.
This is probe applications.
Correct. Back to it. After decades of research, Bueller says he and his team had shown unequivocally that a new fundamental force was at work, and that his devices were tapping into that force to produce thrust without emitting any mass or propellant. Wow. Quote, essentially, what we've discovered is that systems that contain an asymmetry in either electrostatic pressure or some kind of electrostatic divergent field can give a system of a center of mass a non-zero force component, Bueller explained. So what that basically means, and this is a quote again, so what that basically means is that there's some underlying physics that can essentially place force on an object should those two constraints be met. You really just got to know how to charge the thing up right. This is what it's coming down to.
Chargers sold separately.
Yeah. While a potentially game-changing breakthrough, Dr. Bueller's team is not the first to claim the ability to generate thrust with only an electrical charge and no propellant. The debrief previously covered some of the most notable entries, including the EM drive and IVO Limited's quantum drive. So there's multiple people working on this stuff.
Isn't it always the way with the next breakthrough? There's always 2 or 3 groups.
Yeah.
Often not aware of each other.
No, these guys definitely know about each other.
No, a lot of times in history they didn't. I'm just saying it's odd that.
Yeah. One more paragraph. Although the former has had its thrust confirmed by NASA warp drive specialist Harold G. Sonny White's Eagle Works lab, and a second test in China, both of which still remain controversial, neither has yet to be tested in space. The quantum drive, we talked about this before, the quantum drive came close after a launch last November, but a failure in the satellite's electrical systems unrelated to the drive scuttled that test before it could confirm the drive's thrust. So the quantum drive they're talking about there is the inertial mass reduction device we've been following since episode 6.
Yeah.
with the impossible drive being, I think, a new topic for us here at Monster Lore Tour, but very well connected, as you can see. Before moving on, I want to give you a bit more of the article from debrief.org. Once I blow your mind with this, we can discuss, okay? Let me just get through this one. Another unusual result from their tests was that sometimes the tested devices did not require a constant input of electrical charge to maintain their thrust. Given that the device already appears to violate the known laws of physics by creating thrust without propellant, this result even stumped Dr. Bueller and his team. Quote, "We can see some of these things sit on a scale for days, and if they still have charge in them, they are still producing thrust," he told Ventura. "It's very hard to reconcile from a scientific point of view because it does seem to violate a lot of energy laws that we have," unquote. Up next, Bueller says his team is seeking funding to test their devices in space to better understand the force at work. Quote, "We're hoping to do some demos, some space demos. That's what we're trying to get some funding to do. I think that would be a great way to show off the technology," unquote. Besides proving once and for all that the force they are seeing is real, the accomplished engineer believes that such tests could encourage other scientists to search for an explanation of what exactly it is they are seeing. Quote, "I think it's a good opportunity for people to run these tests, look at them, watch them go in space, watch it move in space, and then say, what does it imply? What are the implications?" Until that time, Bueller says he believes his work proves that the force they are seeing is fundamental, and that understanding it is the next logical step. "You can't deny this," he told Ventura. "There's not a lot to this."
Is this the fifth and hidden force?
Yes, that fifth force we were talking about. "You're just charging up Teflon." Listen to this. "There's not a lot to this." This is a quote. "There's not a lot to this. You're just charging up Teflon, copper tape, and foam, and you have thrust." That's a direct quote.
So that was from MacGyver, right? Episode 7?
Yeah. It sounds like MacGyver. "You're charging up Teflon, copper tape, and foam, and you have this thrust." So while his team believes their experiments speak for themselves, the veteran scientist says he also believes it is the job of science to analyze and understand this discovery. If successful, he thinks it may even address some of the harder questions in science, including the nature of dark energy or even space-time itself. Quote, "It's easy to make these things, so it's a tool for the scientific community to use to try to explore those hard questions," unquote. As far as his own thoughts about the nature of the force his team has uncovered, the refreshingly honest NASA veteran demurred, saying only that he believes scientists besides himself are in the perfect position to test and study the results and to come up with the answers. Quote, "It's going to take a physicist much smarter than me to come up with all of that," Dr. Bueller quipped. But the QED is there.
Yeah, the start.
The first steps have been made. They have been made. But they're finding the cheat code. They're using technology that's well developed with materials that are in abundance and creating thrust without propellant in a way that potentially could see, this is the thing, it's not going faster than light. Because it doesn't have
inside the bubble isn't going.
Because it doesn't have the energy.
Yeah.
But it can they're to the point where they can create this type of propulsion without propellant.
Right.
And from there you just improve it and improve it and improve it and improve it. And ultimately this could potentially be used to go faster, like perceivably faster than light.
That's crazy. It's from Cochrane for sure.
Wild.
Yeah. And you think this is behind the patent of the Navy?
No, this is a different device.
Yeah.
This is a different company.
But it's the same.
The quantum drive, I believe, is the one that the Navy is funding. I believe is the PAX 205.
Gotcha.
But there's the quantum drive, and then there's this impossible drive is the one we're talking about. And then there's that other one that I'm going to have to even look up because I'm not even, I don't even really know that one that we talked about back there, the Eagle Works. Yeah, the Eagle Works Lab one. Mm-hmm. Oh, that's the NASA one. So NASA's working on one. The Navy's working on one.
The Chinese.
And then this private company is working on one. The Chinese are probably working on one. The Russians are probably working on one. Everybody's working on it. because they know it's there now. I can find this information.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So everybody who wants to know knows it's there. So I'm sure anybody who's interested is working on developing something like this. It's wild.
That's crazy, honestly.
Yeah. But so now to give the skeptics their due, because we like to do that here at Monster Lore Tour, keep the scale balanced. I just want to add the disclaimer that people have come forward with theories and supposed working models of this kind of drive before, and none of them have actually withstood peer review.
Yeah.
The peer review breaks them down.
Repeatability and actually sending something 30 or 40 milligrams that it goes past Earth's gravity.
And this impossible drive is so new. This is just, they're just now beginning the process of peer review. Yeah. So we'll have to wait and see what comes from that. But from everything I've been reading on this stuff over the past year or so, since I really started looking into it, I say it looks more promising than ever that one of these impossible and or quantum type drives is actually going to work in a real way, at least in space, where you don't have to worry about the gravity. You know what I mean? Note that the mission to test the supposed working prototype of the quantum drive only failed because the other equipment involved failed during the test. So the drive wasn't even able to undergo the testing.
But how did so this is all in the last few years, essentially.
Pretty much.
So how do we, the fusion reaction we've been working on forever, and we can't repeat that. And how do we jump all that to impossible drives? It's
because it's not fusion. It's a totally different approach.
No, I'm just saying it's amazing to me. We're almost leaping over fusion reactions to get to these
it's
crazier,
it's like
energetic.
It's like he said in the previous article that we read. They were trying other things for 25 years. Electrostatics never really occurred to them to be the answer.
Yeah.
But once they started looking at it that way, they were like, whoa, this might work. And they've just been getting like better and better with it as time's gone on.
So ugly sweater contests could propel themselves out of the, get enough people.
Sure.
Yeah, maybe.
Sure.
I don't go to those things.
Like
I think they're dangerous and for other reasons.
It's like that flying party in I believe that was Life, the Universe, and Everything.
Douglas Adams, The
flying party that never ends.
Yeah, there you go.
Turns into a pirate ship stealing booze. Yeah. I still want to go to that party.
That sounds good.
I would do well there. I would be in my element.
Yeah.
And to be more specific about how that test failed and didn't allow the quantum drive to even be tested, here is an excerpt from an article from Futurism.com published February 14th, 2024. In a press release, Rogue Space Systems explains that its Barry 1 CubeSat, ferried to orbit by a SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket, was plagued with ongoing power system issues. A test with the quantum drive developed by IVO Limited was supposed to demonstrate whether the engine could alter the orbit of the satellite. But for some reason, after 2 months in orbit, the test was never initiated, and contact with the satellite was lost on February 9th. An unceremonious end for a demo that was supposedly going to upend the laws of physics. Quote, Rogue's Barry 1 satellite didn't make it all the way through LEOP, which is Launch in Early Orbit Phase, IVO founder and president Richard Manzel told the debrief. Sadly, we never even got to turn on the drives. So we got a real better luck next time situation on that one, I guess. But I will be keeping an eye on the headlines for this stuff as we move along, and I'll make sure to keep y'all up on whatever significant steps are made here. Not sure how long it will take them to reschedule another launch for another prototype device, but who knows, months, years, weeks, who even knows. But Monster Lore Tour will let you know when it happens. I will give you that promise on my end. But that's it for me for this one, Moz. Anything to add or subvert before we go?
Well, it could have happened 5 days ago, just like we started.
It already happened.
It already happened.
The real thing that you have to understand when it comes to this supposedly breaking space-time stuff is time exists as a whole, just like space does, and every moment exists equally and at once, because everything happens now.
No, I know, and that does, kind of echo the Vedas and a lot of the unity consciousness stuff as well.
Yeah. You just got to learn how to slide around in that mass of time rather than the mass of space.
But time just seems linear to all of us, so it's hard to wrap my head around that wraparound.
Right. I've spent decades getting myself to kind of grasp the concept of that.
I thought you just liked pot.
Oh, no, dude. I really have become polytime. Everything happens at once.
Wow.
Yeah. You can feel it once you really get there, but... See,
Tao.
See, I can tell this is a side trail because look at how weird it's getting at the end.
It's very Dowy.
We go so off the rails at the end of these things. But yes, if anyone wants to meditate with me, come on out to Arizona and send me an email. I'll meet up with you. We'll meditate at a vortex in Sedona. We'll talk about the oneness of all things.
There you go.
Anywho, let's get out of here. Thank you all for listening. We really appreciate you following along with the Monster Lore Tour. Make sure to check us out every Tuesday for a new episode. And if you want to get ahead of the crowd, you can join our Patreon at patreon.com/monsterloretour for only $1 a month to get early access to our episodes and all their connected side trails. And if you haven't hit those happy little fun buttons on whatever platform you're on yet, please do that on the way out. Maybe take an extra moment to leave us a rating and review. We'd love to hear how we're doing. I'm not a salesman at all. Can we get out of here?
We can.
We love you all. Stay with us on this road.
We already got out of here. Don't you remember?
Oh, yeah, that already happened.
Yeah.
Keep it weird. All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Side Trail 43 of Monster Lore Tour Paranormal Deep Dives from the Edge of Nowhere podcast. This is the side trail for the shape-shifting Crocs episode.
Cocaine hippos.
I am your host, Jeremy Carr, here along with the Crocs to my socks.
Oh, it's very
Mr. Matt Ozero, a.k.a. the MOZ. I suppose you're doing the same as you were 10 minutes ago when we finished the episode?
Yeah. I mean, I feel pretty good about life. You know, I feel like I had just a little bit of cocaine in that sauce, you know. Just a little, just a smidge.
Anyone who listens to this in the compilation without listening to the episode first is going to be like, "What the hell's going on right now?"
I think that's the natural state of listening to our podcast.
Yeah. I guess we're what the hell's going on right now all the time anyway. Yeah. So yeah, welcome back to the Monster Lore Tour. So my assignment during the Shapeshifting Crocs episode was to take notes on the bigger idea, longer conversation tangents that I noticed we could go on, write them down and use them in the side trail for the side trail. That's what Moz was asking for, so that he could get through the material effectively and efficiently. And now we're going to dive a little deeper into some of the concepts behind it, right?
Yeah, you had 20 minutes, not even, to think about it, so it's more than you deserve, you know.
Well, I had the whole time you were presenting.
True.
To kind of think about it.
Yeah.
And I'd actually rather do it now while it's fresh, because I might forget what my notes mean later.
Drooling and staring off at the wall, you mean that period. Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. Okay. I was just concentrating on what you were saying. When my eyes were closed and I was breathing real slow.
Catatonic strated, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, then. So my first note, we're going to kind of... I wrote these down as we went, so I'm just going to bullet point it. So it'll kind of follow the flow of the episode, topic-wise as well, I guess, at least a little bit.
Nice.
As much as we're capable of anyway. My first note was the Kanaima transformation. The whole vengeful spirit thing. People only really turn into the Kanaima to exact revenge for something.
Right.
To me, it was very Pumpkinheady.
Ooh, yeah.
You know, like somebody's been wronged. They're not necessarily, they're not a shaman, at least as far as, anyone really knows. They're just a kind of a normal person. But if they make the right deal with the right spirit, all of a sudden they have these powers to go exact revenge. But then what happens to them? Because in Pumpkinhead, spoiler alert on the 40-year-old movie or however old it is, when you summon Pumpkinhead, it will go exact the revenge for you. But then you turn into Pumpkinhead and you have to wait for the next person to call you to go seek revenge for them.
Right.
And it's only then that your spirit's allowed to actually be free again.
Again, yeah. You get the job at the end.
Yeah. So with these Kanaima's, I guess we're doing an episode in the future, so maybe I'm just teasing something that's going to come up later, or maybe a point to add in there if you can, if it isn't yet. What happens to them once the revenge is exacted?
Well, the Kanaima are the dark shaman. So this is Pumpkinhead adjacent, potentially, but they are the dark shaman. And usually they were wronged. It's usually you piss them off.
Oh, so you specifically wrong a shaman.
Yeah, and they then it's revenge sorcery based on that, or someone they love. I'm sure it could happen if they have a friend
and they're exacting revenge for that person, which is kind of Pumpkinheady. But the person doesn't have to worry about then having to become a dark shaman.
No,
it's just the dark shaman takes it upon themselves to go exact the
revenge sorcery. And what came first, the chicken or the egg? Like some of this stuff, it's just dark. It doesn't seem like the balance. It doesn't seem like the equal vengeance force, the way we described it in the episode. Reading Neil Whitehead's work, it does not seem that way to me. It just seems torturistic, sadistic, and horrible.
Okay.
These are really the darkest corners of shamanism.
It's in line with the skin
walker
in a way.
Well, what happens with the shape-shifting is, again, one of those things we'll discuss when we get to it. But most of the evidence is more like the Sierra Leone, situation where we have leopard men, where it seems like they're men doing things with sedatives and with implements of destruction. Even the Kanaima story we talked about from Steiger was basically about the Kanaima went out with guns at the end and shot people. So how much of it is...
Again, it might just be a philosophical concept, the Kanaima, where just someone gets infused with the vengeful spirit.
Yeah. Well, it's a shaman, though. That goes... They are the shaman class that goes out and acts these acts of revenge. And they are incredibly feared in that region. Right. And it is an unbelievable kind of situation where the Philippines is one of the scaredest groups out there, and I think this area of South America might be equally as traumatized and horrified by, how they act, what they do, because any insult, it's not like, again, it doesn't seem fair that if you just don't give the proper courtesies to a shaman, that they do these terrible things. They come out at night and kill you slowly in the most horrible way you can imagine. They're very
touchy. Yeah.
Yeah. It's awful. It's an episode that will come with a warning for viewers and listeners, rather, that it's just dark. And it's called Dark Shaman. That's what the name of the study is. So more to come on that.
The deepest, darkest depths of the sisters.
Yeah, it's the darker chapter of the darker shaman, basically.
All right, my next bullet point, we talked about the chimeric nature of existence. You brought back that quote from episode 1, I believe is where this note came from.
The Cthulhu scene, the Rubinstein.
Yeah, there you go. Where nothing is one thing.
Microcosm, yes.
Yeah, and this kind of ties in... If I remember how everything went, I'm pretty sure this ties into the Ahuguano theory at the end, as well as a little bit of discussion at the beginning, that to me, this is indicative of everything is just part of one thing, its own part of one, and it's the fractalization of existence, I believe I mentioned very quickly in passing. Basically, in my mind, and this is, I've got this from reading extensively from a lot of different sources, a lot of different angles, but basically existence is a fractal. Everything is one thing made up of other things. The universe itself can actually be looked at as an organism. Some believe it has its own consciousness, and within that organism, that one organism of the universe, you have galaxies, which in themselves are an organism. In the solar systems in those galaxies, which in themselves are an organism, and the planets within those solar systems, which themselves are an organism, covered with other organisms made up of other organisms. We have trillions of other organisms inside our human bodies. It's a fractal. It's self-similar repeating patterns in a variance of scale.
Yeah,
the universe is us, and we are the universe, and you can say that about anything that exists within it.
It's another variation of the great chain of being, I would say.
Right.
And it's also that Ken Wilbury stuff with the transcending and including, that it gets increasingly more complex, but the atom transcends and includes, the molecule transcends and includes the atom, and then the organelle transcends and includes
all the way down to the muon.
Yeah, and
which
all the way
looks
up.
exactly like a yin-yang. So what does that tell you?
All the way up to the whole universe. Yeah.
All the way up to the whole universe.
Yeah.
It's self-similar repeating system that exists with a variance in scale.
Right. Yeah, I don't know if I can argue with that.
Which leads in to the philosophy of the next point, which is more specific to this episode, where you have the humans turning into crocodiles, you have rocks turning into crocodiles, and then those crocodiles are directly communicating with each other.
Right.
So that's the different levels of that existence, finding a way to actually communicate on the same level to exchange their philosophies with each other. So we can't talk directly to the rock. Human and rock don't actually talk. But if we can find a way to meet in the middle, so to speak, vibrationally, because it's really all vibration in the end, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then all of a sudden we can exchange information with those guys. To me, this is connected a lot on our shamanistic bent that we do in the MOZ episodes. It's kind of reminiscent to me of like the shaman doing the ayahuasca.
Yeah, the plant, talking to the plants and then getting the answers. You're talking to Mother Ayahuasca, and
you talk to the shaman in the rainforest and you say, how did you learn all this about how to use all these plants like this? And they'll say, oh, the plants told us.
Yeah, Jeremy Norby stuff, yeah.
This is, these guys would be the rocks told us.
And Graham Hancock, I suppose.
It's the same concept at work in my mind, right? Does that ring true with you?
Yeah, I mean, from a bigger consciousness perspective, theory stuff, certainly, I totally agree. What I'm trying to break it down into, and you said it very eloquently, explaining in a way the ontological weirdness of dealing with different critters, talking to different critters as different things. But what I was trying to make, what I came across in the study that amazed me is they said these embedded multi-species relationships. And then in Rubinstein, it was these holobionts, these multi-species assemblages.
Yeah.
So you got this microcosm of all these, like I said, trillions of things going on in a direction of teleologically evolutionary in a way that it's building and making things more complex and creating
each level is
that
made of more
transcend,
things.
including stuff that we were talking about. But then it doesn't seem to end with multi-species relationships that are going on, that we're not just these humans that are so isolated. It's not just the microcosmic piece, but then as these trillions of things in us become a human, the human is still dealing with all these multi-species relationships, rocks and plants and werewolves.
Yeah.
So it's all this multi-species relationships on top of all these assemblages of us being multi-species assemblages, and then we're having all these multi-species relations.
Right.
It just becomes, and again it comes back to
Well,
all these little things, or all these little big things, or all heading towards one thing, or it's the pantheologies, what Rubinstein was talking about with which is it? Or is it immanence and things infused? Is it atheism? Is it Spinoza's atheism? Is it more of a Gaia theory? Is it these more of a great chain of being? And there's a lot of evidence, like this doesn't exactly match that in a way. And yet it does. And for me, it's parallel. And I don't really understand how it ties into the perennial philosophy or the great chain of being when you're talking about, we're supposed to be, in some ways, you're talking about the complexity of us being this thing that then finds unity. But there's all these things still around us that are that are separate yet the same, and I don't know how to. In my own head, I don't know how to wrap my head around.
Yeah,
us being trillions of bacteria, biomes, and ecosystems, and then us also dealing with all these plants and rocks and minerals and werewolves. And what does that all mean to be human?
Right.
I don't know. I'm trying to create a monster theory that
well, I guess that's
that.
Part of why we're here and why we started this podcast, right?
Yeah.
Is to delve deeper into these philosophies of things, and maybe at some point we'll have a eureka moment and come up with a little bit more of the truth.
Well, one of the episodes that has come, I am going to do a monstrous microcosm one to get more into what's happening on a cellular level and on a smaller level, as far as all these battles and all these agreements and all these things that happened in our past to get where we are. If you look at it from the perspective of hoarding berserker type things that are working together or fighting each other, it becomes this different version of reality in a way. And that's what Rubenstein did for me with pantheologies, is she was just summing up whole sections of human knowledge, but the way she did it, it changed my perspective of all of it, because it was just so well done. And several pages later, you're like, wow, what did I just read? I know this is true, but the way I'm thinking about it now is more monstrous in a way. It's not just about, everybody happily working together. It's kind of crazy what happened in every stage of development for us, and where it is heading also has implications for that as well.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. Yeah, that's deep. I have another one. You ready for the next deep point I have for my bullet points? So the next thing I want to talk about is when we apparently turned our crocodile ancestor fully human, or our half croc, half human ancestor fully human, by cutting off its tail.
Mm-hmm.
My first question is, do you think that is maybe symbolic of when humans lost their connection with nature?
It's a severing.
As they slid into modern society, so to speak.
It's a severing of the reptilian. It's the slaying of the dragon. In a way, it's individuation. When you have the ego, you can look at it from the hero's journey perspective, I guess, where you are now taking that step where we are this little bubble of ego. We're going to individuate that ego, and we're going to do the hero's journey. We're going to conquer this section of our journey by slaying, the Ouroboros or whatever, and moving to that next level of evolution. But individuation, that's only then it's that turn inward towards unity is that second part of that. But the first part of it is now we are separate humans. We have severed the link between us and animals.
Exactly.
But in some ways, isn't it interesting that group really didn't sever any? They are still a multi-species assemblage and they're still dealing with them as totem animals and as part of them and as sharing a soul. It didn't really happen for them that way, even though there's a story of the severing of the tail.
Well, I mean, maybe it's a warning about the global move to disconnect from nature and delve into modern society, as opposed to the old animistic totemic ways.
Yeah, it's Robert's story. In a way, he's severing the relationship between him and his totem python.
Right.
In the same manner, he's slaying the tail and he's slaying the dragon and he's chasing out of the garden. Basically, he's stepping out of the Garden of Eden. Right,
because maybe it's not so much a tale of what actually happened to these people, but a warning of if you disconnect from nature in that way and disconnect from your past in that way, that it will bring bad things. And I bring to you as evidence a piece of your evidence, the guy that started seeing the crocodile as the serpent in the garden, and he shoots the crocodile, and then he ends up dead because of it.
Yeah,
right.
You're combining.
Am I combining two things?
You're combining Emil's story with the crocodile and Robert's story with the python totem.
Oh, there you go. Which one's the one where the guy shoots the crocodile?
Emil.
That was actually
he's the baker.
He was the ancestor crocodile, right? The ancestor spirit
of the whole community. Yeah, he was the totem.
There you go. That's the one I'm thinking
Cephe, of. Yeah. And
but that's kind of to me that real life story is a representation of this, mythos story about them cutting off the ancestor's tail and making him fully human.
Yeah.
Like, that guy swung so far outside of the old beliefs that he was literally killing the tribe's totem.
Yeah.
The base totem of the tower, like the one that holds everything up. He went out and shot it.
There's a
with his new modern gun.
There's a positive way to look at this as severing, and now we're going to individuate and self-actualize our ego, and there's a negative way to look at it where you're really severing yourself from this multi-species assemblage that you cannot, because you are not separate. And I think you can look at it both ways, and I don't know. It could be both.
Yeah. I feel it's a story of loss, and it's sad.
Yeah, there's definitely a negative way to look at it. I think slaying the dragon, there is a Western positive way to look at it as well, depending on the individual and the situation and what you do with that, all that heroism that you've now conquered the dragon.
Fair enough. Let's see, my next bullet point real quick. You said the phrase Burmese were-tigers. That might be the coolest thing you've ever said. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
That's all I have to say about that.
I think Mertz and Steiger, that's in probably both of them. So Steiger's Shapeshifter Encyclopedia was amazing. And I have to say the Mertzes did such an amazing job with just looking at all the different totemism perspectives and animism perspectives and where it comes from and the kind of a history of totemism, and then kind of shape-shift it into what's happening with this tribe and how ontologically confusing it gets, and what they did to try to explain the answers of the villagers rather than just saying they're full of crap, they can't answer the right question. Oh, they're answering it from the perspective of they're talking to a rock in crocodile form.
Right.
And all of a sudden it became...
Sure, that makes sense.
Well, they had to think about things a lot differently. They were embedded with these folks, and they actually... they didn't Stockholm Syndrome this. They stayed in the ontological penumbra between we're anthropologists, but now we have to understand what you're doing. Sure. Reminds me of Fabio Armand when he said, I'm going to do a thought experiment on what if the Banj Akri are doing something important? What would that look like, this ritual? What are they describing? And what might that mean from a psychological or a neurological perspective? Right. And then he did that thought experiment as to what that ritual might be doing. And I think that takes that kind of outside-the-box thinking from some of our psychologists and some of our anthropologists to get some of these answers.
Which actually leads well into my last kind of deep thought bullet point that I have here. You kind of talked about how these guys go beyond the usual animal familiar quantum entanglement level of attachment, and they're actually experiencing a true duality of existence where it's them and the totem animal are actually embodying the same ancestral spirit simultaneously. Mm-hmm. And at times they can take the same form and directly communicate with each other. And it's really like two halves of the same brain, almost. Like I joke we do.
Right.
Although it's becoming less of a joke and more of a reality.
But they are multiple piece talking to another entity. So in some ways it's multiple things talking to multiple things. But
at the same time, they're infused with the same ancestral spirit. So they're two separate embodiments of the same spirit.
Right.
Right?
But talking to two separate entities of another spirit. Like it's...
Yeah, there you go.
It's so complex.
That really takes it to a different level, because we've talked about a lot of things with... the quantum entanglement side, where you're kind of balancing each other off in the different realms, and we've talked about animal familiars kind of thing from like kind of the more witchy Wiccan side of the shamanism, where you actually kind of can share senses with the animal and stuff. But this is, I think, the first mention we've had in all of these shamanic MOZ episodes where it goes beyond that, and they're actually... the different bodies are literally containing the same ancestral spirit. I don't know if we've heard that before. I just wanted to make that distinction for these guys, because it does kind of separate it into its own subcategory in a way.
And that's at the heart of what they created, that ontonic relationship. It really is, in some ways, a different level of enmeshment and a different way of being in the world, that unless you buy into that piece of it, you don't understand what these folks are getting at sometimes when they speak or answer questions. So it is an enmeshment. I agree with you. I don't think in a way we've seen before. So,
okay, good. I was hoping that point was valid. Yeah, because we haven't seen that before. Yeah. All right, that's the last of my deep ones. The only other bullet point I have is hippos versus crocs. You want to hear more about that?
I think you already either made the last episode amazing or destroyed it. Yeah. We'll have to listen in the editing.
I mean, just real quick, hippos will kill
and
crocodiles.
Anyway, so what I am trying to say, no, go ahead.
Hippos actually do kill crocodiles in the wild. Like, it's one thing that can full on just beat a crocodile in a fight. So I figure a were crocodile versus a coked up hippo.
Yeah,
the money's in my corner with the coked up hippo.
You won all the segments. You won all the segments for the next 3 episodes just coming up with cocaine hippo. So
nice.
I don't know what to say about that. I still don't. It's still fresh.
Well, just
in my ontological penumbra.
Just remember, we are actually one thing, Moz. So if I win, you win, which means we all win.
You're sharing kind of ontonically with me the award. And it's more than a participation award because we're so enmeshed and entangled.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And on that note, I'm going to wrap up this side trail. Anything else to add to Subvert, Moz?
Still seems meaningless to me. But anyway, go ahead. No, it's important what you gave me. I appreciate that.
Thanks, everybody, for coming, especially those members who listen early in the Patreon at patreon.com/monsterlore tour, which you can join for just $1 a month. Not a salesman. We're going to get out of here. Thank you. Seriously, everybody. Really appreciate you coming around and following along with us here at the Monster Lore Tour. We will see you next time. Until then.
But who gets to keep it in a trophy case is, I guess, what I'm asking.
Say goodnight, Moz.
Good night, Moz.
Keep it weird. All right. Here we are on Side Trail 44 of the Monster Lore Tour, Paranormal Deep Dives from the Edge of Nowhere. I'm your host, Jeremy Carr, here with the ubiquitous Mr. Moz. How we doing, Moz?
Sounded like you were on 55. You know, the old records, you played it slow?
Yeah, it was like I was playing the 33 on the 45 or whatever.
That's it. That's what I was going for.
I'm not sure what happened.
Yeah.
I think the electrostatics from the episode kind of played with my brain there and slowed me down a little bit.
Yeah. That's your theory.
Have some vibrational issues.
I told you every time you get vibration what I'm going to do.
Oh, no.
I won't do it this time. I'm Kokomoing you.
Okay. We're off to a rough start here, Moz.
Aruba. Jamaica. Ooh, I won't. Yeah.
It doesn't exist.
I wrote a song for the Filipino one for Kokomo.
Kokomo is like your libido, Moz. It doesn't actually exist.
Libido?
Excuse me. That was a low blow. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Well, I could make a joke about that too, but I'm not going to.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anywho, let's do a side trail. In my last side trail, I did an update on the progress of the propellantless propulsion systems currently being developed.
Which doesn't affect the ozone layer.
I guess it wouldn't, yeah. Environmentally sound.
Mm-hmm.
But this time, I want to update us on some other stuff concerning another of the space-based projects we've been following here on the Monster Lore Tour, namely Breakthrough Starshot.
Is that like a quad? Because I'm really already a little jittery.
That's our potential von Neumann probes that we'll be sending out, kind of stuff.
All right, I'm ready.
We'll refresh a little bit, but so we're going to be looking at Breakthrough Starshot Initiative advancements as well as some other advancements in space-based propulsion systems. Okay. First, let's look at Breakthrough Starshot again. To remind everyone, Breakthrough Starshot is an initiative to build a fleet of solar sail-propelled star chips that we can send out to neighboring star systems at a decent percentage of the speed of light, potentially sending back pictures and data from the Centauris and potentially other nearby systems within the next century. Kind of exciting stuff if we figure it out. Last we heard, real progress was being made. Funding from the Zuck had been acquired, so the sky is the limit there.
Zuckerberg?
Yep. Okay. Meta money They got the meta money behind them now, apparently. But there was one glaring problem.
Mark Zuckerberg.
No, that's actually a good thing in this case.
Yeah, okay.
I'm trying to at least give him credit where it's due sometimes.
There you go.
The glaring problem here specifically is communications with something so far away had not been achieved and was proving to be a major roadblock in the timeline of the Breakthrough Starshot Initiative. We're talking about sending signals from a little chip 4 light years away and receiving them properly on Earth. It's tough.
Yeah.
It's tough. It's like
actually... When we get to those, like how many molecules thick are we sending something?
Yeah, exactly. The coherence and whatnot of the message. And with all the problems that they're solving for this thing, this had seemed, this was seeming like the most difficult one to overcome.
Yeah.
Last we were looking at this, okay. It was beginning to actually seem undoable to send messages back and forth across such a huge expanse. The seemingly infinite precision of the signal direction and the sensitivity and precision of aim of the receiver was beginning to seem too complex. Okay? But we do have some good news. I'm here today with good news about progress in deep space communicational feats. I'm going to start with some excerpts from an article published by NASA's Jet Propulsion Lab just last month on the 22nd of April, 2024. And then we can discuss the implications, okay?
Okay.
Headline is, NASA's Voyager 1 resumes sending engineering updates to Earth. After some inventive sleuthing, the mission team can, for the first time in 5 months, check the health and status of the most distant human-made object in existence. For the first time since November, NASA's Voyager 1 spacecraft is returning usable data about the health and status of its onboard engineering systems. The next step is to enable the spacecraft to begin returning science data again. The probe and its twin Voyager 2 are the only spacecraft to ever fly in interstellar space.
Past the Oort cloud.
Correct. Past the manipulations of our sun.
Yeah.
Voyager 1 stopped sending readable science and engineering data back to Earth on November 14th, 2023, even though mission controllers could tell the spacecraft was still receiving their commands and otherwise operating normally. In March, the Voyager engineering team at NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory in Southern California confirmed that the issue was tied to one of the spacecraft's 3 onboard computers called the Flight Data Subsystems. The Flight Data Subsystems is responsible for packaging the science and engineering data before it's sent to Earth. The team discovered that a single chip responsible for storing a portion of the FDS memory, including some of the FDS computer's software code, isn't working.
It's always a guy named Chip, isn't it?
All right. The loss of that code rendered the science and engineering data unusable. Okay, so this is all communication problems with the chip in the communication array, okay?
You just have to call up the Chinese and ask them to please turn it back on.
Yeah, I guess so. Unable to repair the chip, the team decided to place the affected code elsewhere in the FDS memory, but no single location is large enough to hold the section of code in its entirety. So they devised a plan to divide the affected code into sections and store those sections in different places in the FDS. To make this plan work, they also needed to adjust those code sections to ensure, for example, that they all still function as a whole. They're going to break up the code into bits, spread it around, but yet keep it functioning.
That makes no sense.
Right? And they're going to do this with a thing that's in interstellar space that had lost communication 5 months earlier.
Yeah. Voyager 1.
Correct. Okay, back to it. The team started by singling out the code responsible for packaging the spacecraft's engineering data. They sent it to its new location in the FDS memory on April 18th. The radio signal takes about 22 and a half hours to reach Voyager 1, which is over, you ready? 15 billion miles or 24 billion kilometers from Earth.
But the rabbit ears it has is gigantic on Voyager.
The thing was made in the 70s.
Yeah, it has rabbit ears.
Yeah.
With aluminum foil.
Like actual
Sometimes
rabbit
if you
ears.
put aluminum foil on the top.
They should have put the wire coat hanger in between them for this occasion right here.
Then it can change and hang its clothes and dry them.
Continuing, when the mission flight team heard back from the spacecraft on April 20th, 420 by the way, they saw that the modification worked. For the first time in 5 months, they have been able to check the health and status of the spacecraft. During the coming weeks, the team will relocate and adjust the other affected portions of the FDS software. These include the portions that will start returning science data. Voyager 2 continues to operate normally. Launched over 46 years ago, the twin Voyager spacecraft are the longest running and most distant spacecraft in history. Before the start of their interstellar exploration, both probes flew by Saturn and Jupiter, and Voyager 2 flew by Uranus and Neptune. Okay, so when Voyager 1's return signal went down last November, there was speculation that it was finally the end of communications with the most distant human-made object from Earth. And for good reason. The Voyager 1 craft is already far beyond any expectation of mission length.
Oh, yeah.
The real numbers put it in perspective. So I want to jump real quick to another article from NASA's Jet Propulsion Lab for just a quick history on that. You want to take this one for us, Moz?
The twin spacecraft Voyager 1 and Voyager 2 were launched by NASA in separate months in the summer of 1977 from Cape Canaveral, Florida. As originally designed, the Voyagers were to conduct close-up studies of Jupiter and Saturn, Saturn's rings, and the larger moons of the two planets. To accomplish their two-planet mission, the spacecraft were built to last 5 years. But as the mission went on, and with the successful achievement of all its objectives, the additional flybys of the two outermost giant planets, Uranus and Neptune, proved possible and irresistible to mission scientists and engineers at the Voyager's home at the Jet Propulsion Laboratory in Pasadena, California. As the spacecraft flew across the solar system, remote control reprogramming was used to endow the Voyagers with the greater capabilities than they possessed when they left the Earth. Their two-planet mission became 4. Their 5-year lifetime stretched to 12 and more. Eventually, between them, Voyager 1 and 2 would explore all the giant outer planets of our solar system, 48 of their moons, and the unique systems of rings and magnetic fields those planets possess. Had the Voyager mission ended after the Jupiter and Saturn flybys alone, it still would have provided the material to rewrite astronomy textbooks. But having doubled their already ambitious itineraries, the Voyagers returned to Earth information over the years that has revolutionized the science of planetary astronomy, helping to resolve key questions while raising intriguing new ones about the origin and evolution of the planets in our solar system.
And they're still going.
Yeah.
Voyager 1 has certainly had its share of problems. It's gone offline a number of times, but they keep bringing it back. And Voyager 2 is trotting along just as easy as you could please, man. Just doing its thing in the universal flow. Like, I'd never hear of problems with Voyager 2. It's just...
But Voyager 1's further, and it did have help from alien technology because,
Voyager.
Yeah.
It'll be back. Don't you worry.
Exactly.
But seriously, this is pretty damn impressive for 47 years now into a 5-year mission. Wouldn't you say, Moz?
Yeah.
And it's about to start sending scientific data back from interstellar space. That has never happened.
These are the Voyagers.
But let me get to my actual point. Let's unpack what I actually need for my point here. I started by saying that I'm updating progress on Breakthrough Starshot, and then I jump into a bunch of stuff about Voyager. Mm-hmm. What this is really all about is the overall deep space communication capabilities of you Earthlings. I mean us humans. Excuse me. Like I said in the opening, what has been looking like the biggest roadblock on the path to success for Breakthrough Starshot is the ability to communicate with the solar sail-rigged spaceships once they get to Alpha Centauri, or wherever else we decide to send them. Sending signals across such vast distances of space with
by radio, it's not going to happen.
Well, with enough precision and coherence to effectively receive them on the other end is definitely daunting, to even kind of conceive of, even for those who are, into these things.
Are you still talking about radio signals?
I'm talking about at all.
Okay.
Just trying to figure out how to do it.
But radio signals to Alpha Centauri.
Yeah, that's not going to work.
Not gonna work.
Radio signals will dissipate into space. That they're not going to make it that far.
The rabbit ears would have to be really big.
So it begins to look impossible when you stare at it long enough. It's one of those things. But the good news is some other things used to be impossible, but now aren't. Things like the Voyager 1 coming back online yet again after another breakdown that people thought was finally the end of the 47-year-old 5-year mission. Things like being able to communicate with the satellite in interstellar space, where Voyager 1 was just reborn and is sending and receiving properly from over 15 billion miles away. Again, that's over 24 billion kilometers. People didn't think we could even communicate with satellites once they were in interstellar space.
We couldn't do that with the iPhone 7.
You know what else was supposedly impossible, Moz, at one time? People flying in the air.
Yeah.
And a couple guys in Kitty Hawk broke the rules, so we rewrote them.
Yeah.
Voyager 1 is rewriting the rules of deep space communications every time we talk to it now.
Yeah.
We will be reaching our new record distance from it next month in June, when we are in our farthest spot from it in our orbit, and the distance will just continue to grow.
Until we swing back around.
Right. I mean, it does get a little closer and farther as we spin around the sun.
But it goes further.
But it keeps moving farther away.
Yeah. Spiraling away from us.
Yeah.
Just like this project.
Yeah. And keep in mind, much like this project, they never expected Voyager 1 to make it this far.
Yeah.
It wasn't given any special equipment or anything to deal with interstellar space. They never considered it would still be working once it got there.
Yeah.
So they didn't give it special anything. It's just, it made it, and now it's still communicating.
But that's where the quad Starshot can give it some caffeine.
Yeah, and many believe that we would lose contact with it completely when it left the boundary of our star system, but here we are. And this isn't a recent thing. It's been out there a while. Voyager 1 officially entered interstellar space in 2012. It's been 12 years. 12 years ago.
Wow.
And the old mare just keeps on trotting along, man. Just doing impossible things every day.
Yeah.
Really, it shouldn't be doing this, but here we are. So now this isn't yet a proper litmus test for signals going to and from Alpha Centauri, like we're asking from Breakthrough Starshot.
Yeah.
As far away as Voyager 1 is, it would take about another 75,000 years for it to trot all the way to the Centauri system. Mm-hmm. So, But I do see hope here. The fact that the farthest thing away has made it that far against all expectations and continues to communicate effectively with the 1970s technology makes me think that we, by,
a bunch of smart guys can figure it out.
Yeah, makes me think that the smarter ones amongst us will be able to figure out the multi-light year communications problem.
Yeah.
What do you think about that, Mod? Do you think that's a dream that is worth dreaming?
Yeah, I mean, I remember when Voyager, I'm old, so I remember when Voyager got sent out there, and the fact that it's still doing its thing and we're able to send these upgrades and keep communication and do all this stuff means that whatever we're going to send out today, holy crap.
Yeah, what's that going to be capable of?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Because, almost 50 years later.
Yeah.
But...
And Sergeant Pepper was only 20 years ago today.
Yeah. Anywho, I also want to bring you some info on one of our more impressive satellites we have way, way out there somewhere. The Psyche asteroid probe.
Dang.
Is that a monstrous enough name for you, Moz? It makes me cringe every time I hear it.
It reminds me of the Vulcan Mine probe. Yeah. Not just the Star Trek reference. The drink my friend invented. He said, even if you're in the same room with it, it will kind of throw your liver enzymes off a little bit.
Oh, yeah, just the smell of it makes you drunk.
Yeah, it's bad.
But
was he.
I'm going to say it again. The Psyche asteroid probe.
I like it. Can I also add something?
Sure.
So Psyche, are they going with that means soul?
Uh-huh.
As a psychology guy, that's from Greek and Roman mythology. Cupid's little girl friend. So I'm just wondering why they went with that. Trying to bring a little soul back.
I wish it was that. It's not. It's on its way to meet up with an asteroid named Psyche. It's going to probe the Psyche asteroid, so it's called the Psyche Asteroid Probe. But it's not very inventive as a name when you really get into it.
But they're soul searching, literally.
They're soul searching the star system
for a soul,
for a piece of an original iron core of a planet.
Nice.
Yeah, that's basically what Psyche is, as far as they can tell. It's part of a core of a Earth-like sort of planet that formed a long, long time ago, and maybe part of what created the asteroid belt or the Kuiper belt or
the Kuiper belt. Yeah, nice. Oh, cool.
Anywho, this Psyche craft is making some cool advances of its own on the deep space communications front, which is why we're going to talk about it here real quick. This is a very recent article from space.com published on May 23rd, 2024, which is less than a week before recording here. The headline reads, Asteroid-bound Psyche spacecraft fires up ion thrusters, starts cruising through space. A rendezvous with the metallic asteroid 16 Psyche is scheduled for 2029. NASA's mission to the metal-rich asteroid 16 Psyche has fired up its ion engines and is now cruising across the solar system under the power of solar electric propulsion. It's also going to be about communications. It's all going to tie together. The launch of the spacecraft, which is also called Psyche, on October 13th, 2023, gave it enough of an initial boost to take it across more than 190 million miles, which is about 300 million kilometers of space, which is beyond the orbit of Mars. Now, however, its onboard ion engines have taken over the job of acceleration. They work by converting sunlight into electricity via the spacecraft's solar arrays that form its wings. The resulting electrical current powers an electromagnetic field that accelerates and expels ions, which are charged particles of xenon gas.
Or Warrior Princess.
No. As the ions are accelerated out of the four thrusters, creating an eerie blue glow, they impart a momentum upon the spacecraft, pushing it in the opposite direction. The force exerted by expelling ions is small. Each thruster provides a pressure equivalent to 3 coins pressing into your hand due to the force of gravity. It's not a lot. I wish they would say whether it's dimes or nickels or quarters, but or maybe a loonie, Canadian loonie.
Ooh.
However, with no atmospheric friction in space, this gentle thrust can build up, quickly accumulating to accelerate the spacecraft at higher and higher rates.
But annuity is still better in the long term.
Yeah, it's a little bit at a time, but it grows and grows and grows.
Yeah. Well, I just said.
Okay. Psyche is currently racing through space at 84,000 miles per hour. That's 135,000 kilometers per hour. And the intention is to get it up to 124,000 miles per hour. So looking at kind of around 200,000 kilometers per hour.
What percentage is, I know I'm putting you on the spot, is that of speed of light?
Oh, not much.
Okay, yeah.
It's not a notable percentage, I don't think.
Understood.
Very fast, though. Continuing, the spacecraft's ion engines are currently firing almost constantly and taking it forward, but as part of Psyche's journey to its eponymous asteroid, it will loop back around and encounter Mars in May 2026. On approaching the red planet, Psyche will shut down its ion engines and allow itself to get caught in Martian gravity and be slingshot around the planet. After this gravity assist, the ion engines will power back up, and the spacecraft's next stop will be the asteroid 16 Psyche in 2029, which it will orbit for at least 2 years.
But the Psyche mythos has more to do with Venus, so I think this is a little off course. Just from a mythological standpoint, Venus, Mars, just saying.
Men are from Mars, women are from Venus,
there you
right?
go. Psyche's a female.
Psyche's a female going to Mars.
Ooh. Yeah.
Panspermia. Just saying.
Yeah.
That's next season, though. We'll get into that next season.
All right.
Where was I? Continuing. The asteroid Continuing. The asteroid 16 Psyche is of interest to scientists because it is a large 173 mile wide, that is 280 kilometer wide, fragment of an ancient planet's metallic core that was left over from our solar system's period of planet formation about 4.5 billion years ago, which is the very beginning.
I'm just envisioning, you bring it into that Vegas pawn shop and it's like, oh, I got this planet core. Like, what can I get for this?
It's trillions of dollars. It changes the world economy if we actually harness it.
Nice.
Yeah.
See?
Yeah.
I was right.
Yeah.
I should bring it to Vegas.
It's worth trillions of dollars, that asteroid.
Yeah. I mean, it's not going to be worth as much at the pawn shop, but, it's still a lot of money.
Right. They'll still give you, a few hundred millions.
Nice.
Anywho, by learning about 16 Psyche, planetary scientists hope to discover more about the interiors of rocky planets like Earth, as well as how the world's formed.
Help with our hollow moon and hollow Earth theory.
Yeah, hollow moon episode. Definitely check that out. Throughout its journey, the spacecraft Psyche has not been idle. It has spent its time using various instruments to gather scientific data. For example, its magnetometer, as well as its gamma ray and neutron spectrometer, have detected charged particles emitted by coronal mass ejections from the sun. Meanwhile, the spacecraft is also testing a new deep space optical communications technology.
So we can look at it.
Based on using lasers rather than radio to transmit data over interplanetary distances.
Dang.
See, we're addressing your issue right there, Moz.
Yeah.
A test of the system in April exceeded expectations by beaming back data at 267 megabits per second from a distance of 226 million kilometers.
Gazillion.
That is basically 140 million miles.
Wow.
This bit rate is comparable to broadband download speeds in your home. This is high speed download type stuff coming back.
So we can check out those green slave women from Rigel.
From 140 million miles away, we are receiving full-on high-quality broadband type download speeds.
I know why I thought of that.
What's that?
No, nothing.
Continuing, until this point, we have been powering on and checking out the various pieces of equipment needed to complete the mission, and we can report they are working beautifully, said Henry Stone, who is the Psyche project manager at NASA's JPL, in a statement. Psyche isn't the first mission to the asteroid belt to employ ion engines. Before it, NASA's Dawn mission visited both Ceres and Vesta under the throttle of solar electric propulsion. In Star Wars, the name of the Empire's TIE fighter stands for Twin Ion Engine.
Wow.
But as Dawn and now Psyche demonstrate, such technology is no longer science fiction. How cool is that? It's real-life Star Wars stuff.
Yeah, but why don't we go with the Rogue stuff instead of the Empire technology? I mean, that actually makes sense.
It does, right?
Sadly.
See, you thought about it for a second.
Sadly.
See, who's funding Breakthrough Starshot?
Yeah.
Zuckerberg.
Yeah.
See that? Evil Empire.
Nice.
Yeah?
I like it.
Yeah?
Oh, I'm with you.
Let's get back on track here, though. There's a couple things to unpack. This new laser communication system is quite impressive. It's a big step forward for deep space communications. Being able to send that coherent of a signal at that bandwidth over that long of a distance and receive it continually is definitely a glimmer of hope in the eye of the Breakthrough Starshot Initiative as far as the communication capabilities go. It's a game changer, total game changer. Knowing how well the old school Voyager equipment holds up after 12 years in interstellar space, and we can still communicate effectively with it and then establish next-gen technologies that make that stuff look antiquated by comparison, like we were talking about.
Super antiquated, yeah.
Yeah, it looks like Breakthrough Starshot might have a real shot at breaking through to other star systems. What do you think, Moz?
It is all still really impressive, but it is all still with a Chinese chip in it. Just have to bring that back. You know?
Arizona is about to become one of the biggest chip makers in the world.
Yeah, so we use ours.
Yeah.
Then maybe we'll
kind of exciting.
Yeah, They can't. The Chinese can't turn that off as easily.
That's the whole point why we're doing it.
Yeah.
So we can actually supply our own chips, and no one else can turn them off.
Yeah, exactly.
Which I don't know why we didn't think about that like 40 years ago,
Yeah.
but okay.
Yep. I'd love to be flying an F-35 thinking about that right now.
Yeah. Anywho, the other cool thing about the Psyche asteroid probe, is the ion drive technology it uses. Doesn't have the accelerative force of a full-on solar sail with laser beams being fired at its head, like the Breakthrough Starshot chips will be using, but it has the ability to continuously accelerate a vehicle up to pretty impressive speeds when it's out in space with minimal gravitational influences on it, when it can just do its thing without any friction, basically.
So it's not under the influence. That's good to know.
All right. But if left on continuously, after a year or so, it could reach speeds over 200,000 miles per hour, which is 360,000 kilometers per hour. So it could actually get almost twice as fast as it was saying it's going to get going earlier. The problem is it would require a very large amount of xenon gas to accomplish that feat. It actually needs, it's technically propellantless, I guess, in a way, but it still needs xenon gas to break down into the ions.
Warrior Princess.
Thank you, MOZ. However, so it's not as impressive as the fully propellantless systems they're working on, like we talked about in the previous side trail. But it's been implemented. It's and it's proven that it may not get there quick, but it can get to pretty good speeds.
Yeah.
The real question is can they scale it up from there into the actual Star Warsy TIE fighter type, where it can actually start achieving like instant high speeds like that? Because it would be the sublight. I would imagine the light speed is a different engine from the sublight speed. So the ion engines would be the sublight speed.
Right.
So you just got to figure out how to get it to actually accelerate faster.
No, you need the spoilers, and you need those fire flames decals on the sides, and we can have the 50s all over again in space.
Ooh.
Yeah.
50s in space. That sounds horrible.
It's like pigs in space, except 50s in space.
Pigs in space.
Yeah. We went there.
Anywho, I was talking about the Muppets earlier today. But I'm pretty sure I talk about the Muppets almost every day.
I have a side trail coming about the Muppets.
Sweet.
I know.
Is Kermit a shaman?
One of these days. Wow, I didn't think now. Yes.
He is now.
He is now. But that's not what this is about.
Okay, but anyway, so can they scale it up is the final question on the ion drive. We have the leap forward where we can communicate with old school radio stuff in interstellar space on something that's almost 50 years out, 10 times its original mission length, right? Furthest thing ever from Earth, and we're still talking to it on 1970s radio communications. Now we have this new one out there with this laser beam coming from obviously not as far away, but impressively far away.
Right.
But that laser being able to feed that kind of signal back from that distance, if you add those two things together, I really do think Breakthrough Starshot's going to end up being a thing.
So it will be a quad. It will be a 4-shot, which I'm a little, I could have done them that a few hours ago, but now it's just going to make me a little jittery.
Yeah. But I got a little more on general stuff about this. I had a conversation with somebody kind of in the know recently, but this is getting long for a side trail. So I'm going to save that for the season finale coming up.
Dang. So you're holding out on us.
I'll do another update in the season finale. There's some other things I got to look into and maybe update some other things about some of these things I've been talking about along with that. So for now, I'm going to leave it at that. We have new hope on the Breakthrough Starshot front, which for those of us who are following it is very good news.
No, we have new hope because they got the plans for the Death Star to Princess Leia at the end of that movie.
Help me, Moz. You're my only hope.
That was, I like it.
Anything to add or subvert before we go, Moz?
That's a good holographic image of me.
Long live the rebellion.
Dressed as Princess Leia. I won as Princess Leia's stunt double on one Halloween, which was kind of amazing.
Oh, no.
I did the Spaceballs version of Princess Leia. Well, it was a Star Wars theme.
Did your wife dress as Han Solo and you do the whole,
No, someone else did that.
Gender bending
You know who
sort
did
of
that?
thing?
The not cool Jeremy. Dressed as, yeah.
That makes sense.
It does.
Yeah.
I should have won, though, because
The cool Jeremy would have been Chewie.
Ooh, yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
I don't even really have to put on a costume for it.
You
Just put my
show
hair
up
forward.
and drink beer. Cousin It.
It is more Cousin Itty, I guess, in that way. And we are far enough off the rails to end a side trail. Thanks for everyone for coming, especially those in our Patreon section listening to this early right after the episode when they come out together. It's only $1 a month, patreon.com/monsterlore tour. Don't forget to hit the happy little fun buttons on whatever platform you're on. Like, subscribe, share, tell your weirdo friends about us because they might like us. And that's it. Until next time, keep on squatching. Monster Lore Tour Podcast.
So where were we?
I just need to get into this reading.
Oh, did you not read that right?
I haven't read it at all.
I loved what you did with it.
Shut up!